I'm Nick Hughes, and this is Founders Live Conversations.
Hey everyone, welcome to Founders Live Conversations. I am Nick Hughes. I am the founder and CEO of Founders Live. And today I am joined by a special guest, a really, really good friend of mine, Ash Bhoopathy. He's with Lab Ventures as well as FriendlyFace. Ash, come on. How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you, man. Thanks so much for having me on this. I've seen these, I've watched these for a while, and now I'm kind of honored and I'm excited to be a part of this. So let's do this.
Well, you know, it's kind of a long time coming. We have known each other for, I think it's about 10 years. And you know, what I would like, like a decade now. And what I'd like to do is actually, first of all, just give us a little background on yourself. And then we're going to get into the history, literally like when we met and where we met. It all starts back about 10 years ago, which I think we can both share some of those memories. And then we're going to get into, you know, what you're building and, you know, let's talk about FriendlyFace and why it's really relevant and important. But first off, you know, welcome and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Cool. Yeah. So my name's Ash. I've been a product builder and serial entrepreneur for a long time. I love design. I'm really, really obsessed with design, good design, well-designed products. I think that there's a lot of not well-designed products out there on the market, whether it's physical goods, digital goods. And, you know, I just, for a long time, I've been one of those people that it like physically causes me pain when I see something that's designed poorly or made poorly. And I just think that, you know, life's too short and we just need to be surrounded by good things, good objects, and good digital experiences as well. And I've brought that into a lot of things that I do.
And that is honestly one of the main aspects of what I've been so impressed with you and your craft. You know, Ash, you're a designer by trade in terms of, you know, when you build products as an engineer and a designer. And what I've been so impressed with is exactly what you said, which is like understanding quality, not just from a visual design to the way that a product works, to the way that a user actually experiences it. So I really, really love that about you. And that's what I picked up very early on with you. And so why don't you take us back to at least, you know, about 10 years ago. And that's really where we met. And when we met, tell me a little bit about that. What were you working on at the time? And we met, you know, in Seattle.
Yeah. We were in Seattle. I believe I was working on an ed tech startup. It was my very first company. We just, you know, we had, you know, it was pre-MOOCs, you know, long, you know, these educational systems that were delivered through the internet. It was called Better At, and it was a little platform that helped kids and people get better at their career hobbies in school in one place. It came out of some funding from the MacArthur Foundation. And it was, you know, it was my first rodeo. It was the first ed tech company that I've done. It was kind of remote and it was kind of hard to do remote at the time. Moved to Seattle, you know, saw the ecosystem and stuff out here. And really started building a whole bunch of other products as well. And that's when I found you, Nick. You were working, I think it was on Seconds at the time, and we were in the same sort of co-working space, or we were renting space from an architecture firm.
Yeah, I so remember that. And, you know, we had, actually, it was my co-founder at the time, Jacques. We were mutual friends with, you know, and then you came in and, you know, I think back to those days, and I don't know about you, but I think back of how much I didn't know, right? And yes. I clearly didn't know a lot, and you know, maybe you share the same thing, but you know, maybe one question is, how did you go about? Because like, you know, people that are watching this are early entrepreneurs. They might be, you know, kind of first real attempt at their company and startup. How did you approach knowing that you didn't know a lot, like, but we're jumping into creating a startup? What was your thought process of like, screw it, I'm just going to go, like, I'm going to figure it out, because I think you're a great figure it out person. Like, you research, you just find things on whether it's Reddit or Product Hunt or other things like that. Like, what's your mentality of when you don't know, how do you go about finding out how to go do something?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. I believe a lot in, first principles. So I don't like to do a ton of secondary research necessarily, but just asking people and talking to people directly, I think, is a way better way to go. I've learned that just talking to people directly and not necessarily asking them, hey, what do you think the solution should be? But really trying to just unearth the problem by asking them, asking them the things around it, like, hey, how do you think this might be solved? But then oftentimes they'll really point to the problems that they're having. And of course, some of them are vitamins, some of them are painkillers. And so understanding what makes for a good business, I think, is at the core of really figuring out what makes a good company. And is it a blowout company, or is it just kind of a small little, hobby project kind of thing?
Explain a little bit more about the vitamin and the painkiller, because I think that's a really important point to make when someone is actually creating a product or a business. You mentioned those two, and why would someone choose one or the other?
Sure. As time has gone on, it's really important to understand which market you're in. And many times vitamins can actually be pretty good businesses. And when I say vitamin, I mean, this is a product that people didn't really know that they needed, but it's kind of a nice to have. And oftentimes some of those nice to have products are actually just give you a lot of pleasure, and enough pleasure that you're willing to kind of use them and you willing to kind of pay for them. And that's okay. You can totally create a business like that. Many of the consumer businesses, like, you didn't really know that you needed this thing. Apple just released $500 plus headphones, and many people didn't know they needed $500 headphones, but I'm sure that they will probably be selling out before the holiday season this year. Right. And so figuring out like how to establish and build your brand big enough to where people will still buy, vitamins, if that's what you're selling, is one tack. And then the other tack is, well, okay, I need this problem solved right now, today. I don't care what thing that is solving it for me, but I just need this problem solved. And there's very different sort of paths to choose. It's not one is right or one is wrong, but it's just important to figure out and understand which path you're on. And then there's two different sort of sets of strategies that you deployed based on which path you're on.
Yeah. Which leads me to, essentially your approach over the last, 8 to 10 years almost has been around this like innovation lab studio concept. Tell us a little bit more about that. And obviously we'll get into one of your main products today, but you've actually created a number of them over the handful of years. I've always been impressed with how you all just kick out these ideas and you test them and see what sticks and works. Tell us about why you chose to go around that kind of like innovation lab concept.
Yeah, sure. Well, first and foremost, I have an immense amount of fun building new products. And so I saw somebody post this the other day on Twitter, and it really resonated with me. It's, what do you do that's fun that other people think is work? And for us, that's really building product. And I would get bored if I was building one thing for a very long time. And so for me, what's exciting is building a bunch of different things, different use cases, learning different verticals. It's really, really healthy, I think, to be to learn enough about all these different markets, especially when you're trying to figure out how to deploy capital, right? And so I spent a little bit of time in venture and understood how that worked. And now I also wanted to see, well, if you're just deploying capital, I kind of believe that capital is fungible, if not now, then very soon, with the introductions of things like, companies like Stripe are bringing along, and more high, venture, high venture high resolution fundraising and things like that, I think that we're going to have more capital fungible models where anyone can invest. And it's really no longer about like, hey, can you and raise money or for a certain thing. It's really about like, hey, is this thing working? If so, let's start throwing in more capital. And in that world, I think that we can create studios where you can just create a bunch of things, let them blossom, let them flourish. And if something is really taking off, okay, well, now it's time to pour on more capital into that. And that's the way that we've really been operating for the last several years is we work with large companies who want to have some innovation arm and who want to go pull up, put something together really quickly. Oftentimes the organizational antibodies within that organization prevent them from creating something new. And so what we can do is we can come in and we can we have a ready-made product team of design, build, marketing, go to market, or we can pull something together really quickly and have them go and test it. And I think we can do that better than most companies internally.
That's interesting. I know that you've mentioned a bit around like resilience and pivots, and this model allows you to do that. It's like almost ingrained and natural in the process, which is kind of really just like quick iteration testing and then seeing what's working. If something's not, you can shift, but you can also jump on either a urgent trend or whatnot. Talk to us a little bit about recent resilience and pivots, which will lead to our really product discussion that we're going to have today.
Sure. I think that's a really good segue to what we've been working on for the last several months. So when the pandemic, obviously, COVID started and it was awful for everyone. Some tech companies did really well. Our market, so we had another B2B product that we were selling in market, and the target of that market was largely very experiential businesses, right? It was mostly service-oriented businesses. Well, a lot of the service-oriented businesses, during the pandemic, they weren't really generating revenue. It was a really hard time to sell to them. And so what we did was we kind of, I started as a joke, really. In March, when I saw everybody wearing these masks, I was walking around and I think I was in some big box store, and I saw everybody wearing the same masks, these surgical masks or KN95 or N95 masks. And I was like, everybody looks like a bank robber or a ninja or a carpenter. And I just thought that was weird that there was just everybody doing the same exact thing. And it was good that everybody was masked up, but I also felt like this is interesting. We're going to come out of this and we're going to be wearing these masks for a while. Well, we might as well have some with a little personality. And as a joke, I printed, I got my own face printed on this mask just to make my kids laugh, honestly. And then I walked around one weekend, and then when I was at Home Depot or Trader Joe's or anywhere that I was at, any store, people walked up to me and were like, "That's hilarious. That's funny. Where did you get that?" And I was like, "Wow, this is nuts. Like a lot of people are asking me about this thing. I should probably figure out how to take advantage of that." And that's really what led towards this sort of, you could call it a pivot, but really it was a new business. Let's go figure out how to make this work.
Yeah. Expand on that. So you shifted into FriendlyFace, which is I'm going to pop an image on the screen. We can still be chatting, but tell us a little bit more. So this is like just pure entrepreneurship where you're like, wait, people are asking about this. Like maybe we can create something. So what was next?
Yeah, sure. So what was next was hard. It was really hard. So we had so this is FriendlyFace. With FriendlyFace, we encourage people to be themselves again, right? So take a selfie, and then we can make you a personalized, either a mask or a gator. We also do gift cards now, and we have, just as a joke, we have this thing called a mug on a mug, which is like if you're on a Zoom call or something and you don't see anybody, you could show your actual face on a mug. And so, this is what the product looks like. Again, it's kind of started as a joke, but here it is. as you can see.
Look at that.
Hard to talk with this thing on, so I'll take it off. But yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so essentially what it is it's your own face. And every single time I go out, people are still like, well, that's crazy. That looks like your face. I'm like, dude, that is my face.
That is my face.
And people are kind of still amazed that this is possible. And so what we want to do with FriendlyFace is really prove something, right? What we're proving is that we can make personalized products at scale. So mass customization, which has kind of been the holy grail in retail and in e-commerce for a while. If you can actually customize products for a person, they're much more likely to own that product for a longer period of time. And thus, we go away from this sort of fast fashion model of like buying something, using it for a couple times, throwing it out. Like there's nothing more personalized than having your own face on a mask.
Right.
And yes, it started off as a joke. But really, if you take that idea and you take like what's possible with personalization and with customization, I mean, you have to look no further than Nike and Nike ID and seeing the success that they had. And like that's spawned off entire communities of creators where people will create and create shoes and then sell those shoes for a premium, right?
Let's dive into a little more around why. Why did you grab onto not only clearly personalization of a product, which you jumped onto the face and the mask, but why is it important to wear a mask? I do think it's important to really dive into and touch on that. We're in the middle of a pandemic. This has lasted almost a year. It's still painful and challenging. Let's dive a little deeper into why did you grab upon this?
Yeah. So it's unfortunate that the entire thing has been kind of politicized because I spent a lot of time in Asia, and in Asia during the flu season, it's just common to wear a mask, especially if you're sick. So it's a lot of just you do this for others. Like if you're sick, then you don't want to spread your germs to other people. Also, people live in sort of dense quarters, right? In dense urban environments where you have no choice but to take the public transportation. You should probably be wearing a mask, particularly during that flu season, that winter season. In our country, we do have these kinds of things that we use to prevent people from getting sick, right? Oftentimes that's just like, we've been educated that is, oh, we'll take like echinacea, or we'll take like emergency, or we'll take, some kind of like product, like a vitamin C booster to make sure that we don't get sick, just because like masking hasn't been really that normalized, right? But if you kind of live in a society where it's been normalized, then you're like, okay, you're used to it. And then you think, well, why hasn't that really caught on? And the difference that I see personally is if you live in the Western society, then it's all about individual expression, right? If you live in the East or, the Asian cultures, it's very much about like sort of blending in. And I don't want to say it's a homogeneity, but it's a lot more acceptable that, everybody's kind of wearing these masks. And so I thought to myself, hey, if we really want people to wear masks, do the right thing. And we know that like numerous studies have shown that like we should be wearing masks, especially to curtail this pandemic right now at its height, then like we need to be wearing masks. We need to be doing the right thing. And maybe we can just have fun with it too, right? Like if there's a way for us to like share our own emotion to like, you haven't seen people's faces. Imagine having a new relationship or a new friendship with somebody and they're like, oh, that's like, you come out of this and you're like, that's what your face looks like at the end of it. It's just a weird thing. And right, like, I find it weird that we don't see the bottom of people's faces. We don't see smiles. I think it has a huge impact on the mental psyche and mental makeup of kids, right? Like in daycare and schools. And when they start going back and they see their teachers, I mean, imagine, just put yourself in the perspective of a kindergartner, first grader. It's your first time going to school. You've only seen your parents, you've only seen your small community. And then now you're going to this big, scary school and your teacher's like has this mask and it's this black thing or this blue thing. And it like you don't know what that person looks like at all. It's very hard to create that relationship.
And you're bringing what you just said, you're bringing so many different angles to not only why we've had a problem here in the United States, especially, but the psychology around it, and the issues that personally people have, whether they vocalize them or not. But man, you just actually described that it's deeper than just I don't want to wear one, and it's deeper than actually politicized, which is really a bad thing. It's unfortunate that happened in the United States, but geez, you just painted a picture where how important smiles are, how important facial recognition and just from a human standpoint, not technically, like literally, like the ability to see someone's actual expression and a happy expression influences the way we feel personally. And so I love how you brought that in, and you've now created something that you can have someone can put their face and smile on this mask. So walk us through a little bit, in terms of, we got FriendlyFace here. In terms of put a friendly face on at friendlyface.com. So if you could, ask people, what would you like them to do? Where should they go? What can they find there? Tell us a little bit more about that experience.
Sure. Yeah. So when we first started this out, we thought, oh, it's super easy, right? People will upload a selfie and they will send it to us, and then we will make a mask. So we use a technology called dye sublimation. We use a printer that's one of the very, it's a brand new sort of really high-end printer. We've invested thousands and thousands of dollars in color match technology to make sure that the color actually matches your skin tone when you take a good photo. We've invested a lot in technology that actually gets the photo right. So is not as easy as just going and uploading a photo of yourself. We've actually built an iOS app that we use the true depth sensors on the camera. So we're using augmented reality sensors to actually measure and map your face. And then we're taking that photo and we're actually scaling it appropriately so that when you put the mask on, it actually scales right and it actually looks good. And so as a result, we have people who have purchased other garbage masks from other vendors are like, oh, this is a selfie mask and it looks terrible. So a lot of our, getting our word out is like, no, we're actually really, really good at doing this. When you take the photo right and when you use the iPhone app, our mask comes out perfectly. And as a testament to that, people who've ordered from us, there's a guy who've ordered from us and then we'll order like way more stuff, like order one mask. Okay, cool. I'm going to go back and order like $500 worth of masks and gaiters and other stuff. Cause like he really believes in the product. He understands why it's important for us to get back. And it's important for us to see each other's smiles.
Love it. Love it. And, the amount of innovation, actually, I think it's unseen. It's probably taken for granted what you just described. And, the fact of that image that's uploaded, it's going to shift on your face, right? So you've taken that into account. What would be, this is definitely just thrown, off the cuff here, but what would be let's go 2 things in terms of this project specifically you learned by creating that technology, building this out, putting them into the market, specifically from FriendlyFace. What have you learned?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this has actually been one of my first, my first DTC, direct to consumer e-commerce play. And e-commerce going direct to the consumer is amazing. There's a lot that is really, really cool about it, which is that direct feedback that you get from the customer. You're not going through a channel, not selling on Amazon, you're selling it directly to that consumer. The message that you have to that consumer, you really only have 3 seconds on any kind of paid media channel to reach them. And making sure that your message resonates, making sure that you have the right audience that you want that message to resonate with, and then doing it time and time again is probably the most important thing in DTC, right? With B2B products, you have a longer sales cycle, you have many, many months to try to describe like, hey, here's what we're trying to do and here's what we want. Here's why you should use this product. In DTC, you really only have a very short period of time, and we're trying to really close a customer within 1 or 2 or 3 touches. And then media is so important, right? So we've invested a lot in media production. We have a head of content and sales who does a lot of our videos, which are very engaging, and we're looking to do a lot more. That's the biggest thing that I think that we've really learned. And then obviously the second thing is like all of the image manipulation, computer vision, computational photography stuff. It's much harder than it actually seems, but when you get it right, when you nail it right, and a customer emails you and is like, this is amazing, I'm going to order more, or like you see the reviews on our site, it's like, it feels amazing, right? It feels like, wow, we've really, really resonated with this customer, and that feels perfect.
Yeah. That feeling, depending on what business, other people are building, when you have that outreach from someone that you don't know, you have no idea how they found your product or company, and then they are reacting exactly the way that you imagined or built it for. That feeling is like, that's what keeps us going, right? Like you're like,
absolutely.
It's like a dopamine hit, and you're like, all right, that's why I get up this morning. That's why we're going to do it again. So cool, man. How about, let's go a little more generic now. You've been doing this for quite some time. I tell you what, it's a little humbling to start to figure out that we're becoming the veterans, and that's like a scary, funny thing. And I love it, but I also am like, oh man, like, I'm not 20 anymore. So I don't know about you, but we've learned some things here.
I'm still 20.
You look good. You look good, man. You look good. What is more general entrepreneur advice, starting companies, and you've got more of the kind of like studio lab concept where you're just kind of pushing things out a little more frequently, but what would be 2 big things that you've learned in the founder journey that is what you'd like to share?
I mean, it's kind of trite, but like, team is everything. And if I could have done it over again, I think my advice would be to understand all the aspects of a business and everything that you need to do enough that you can get a team around every component. And so, for DTC, I've never really done paid media. I've never invested time and energy in paid media before. And for this particular company, it's been a huge learning lesson for me, and going through multiple agencies and multiple media buyers and thinking, okay, this is going to be the answer. And the sooner that you get to the right people, putting the right people in the right spots on a company that have their own genius, then that really, really frees you up to focus and work on the business as opposed to working in the business, which I think almost all entrepreneurs start out and they get too sort of in the weeds in their own business, and they can't just step out and say, like, get the right people in the right spots.
That is actually perfect advice. And, I have to hear it too. Those are the things that I struggle with sometimes, is you can get too in the weeds. You can then find yourself in the weeds months and months, and all of a sudden it's a year later and you're like, what, like, why, it's important to do certain things, but why am I doing these things all the time? And why am I not building out that team that can do it even better than I do? And, no matter what business you're in, you have to have, the whatever you want to call it, the all-stars, or in terms of your team that you determine, you need that, the people that can do that job 10 times better than you can. Put them in their right place so they can balance out that team. And I know that you've found that you've got that team, and you've surrounded yourself with a number of great people that do those jobs excellent. So I want to give you props for that as well. Your team's great.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we really would not have done as much as we have, without this team. And like, I was just thinking about it the other day, like all of the things that we have done on this mask business, like we had to learn textiles, we had to learn printing, we had to learn, rapid prototyping of textiles, right? Like we had to come up with the design for these gaiters, which are reversible gaiters. They're, people use them for winter sports and stuff too. Like we're looking to do licensing deals with sports teams. This is just a prototype, but like, I mean, look at that. Like it's like a person's face on one side, and then in the background, there's like a sports team or whatever it is. Like we've had to learn a ton about, printing, textiles, like computer vision, computational photography, all these things, and to assemble them together. And the only way to do that, to build all of that, is to have a team that's really versatile and really, really curious about the world and really passionate enough to like go like, hey, we're going to learn it. We're going to go build it, and be like, not be afraid to go learn all those things and say, yeah, no, we're just going to do it. We want to own that and build that. And we're not going to be afraid to do it.
Yeah, that's so great. We will continue to talk about, I liked how you showed the logos there, and maybe there's something coming in from our angle too around that. So we'll talk about that. But so, again, friendlyface.com, your last words here. What would you like to tell people to what they should do, and what would you like them to experience with FriendlyFace?
Awesome. Yeah. Please, whatever you do, when you go out in public, when you go to places, you should be wearing a mask. Obviously, we'd love for you to be wearing a FriendlyFace mask. We can give you a promo code after this, after I could talk to Nick about doing a promo code. So yeah, please go wear a mask. If you want a selfie on your mask, that's fantastic. You really should be using FriendlyFace to do it. You can order one at friendlyface.com or use our app that's live on the App Store. It's just called FriendlyFace.
Well, Ash, this has been such a great conversation, and probably not the last one that we'll record. But we talk frequently and all this, but the ability for us to put this out there for others to be able to grab a hold of, and hopefully this really helps them on their journey. Thank you for joining us today.
Cool. Thanks, Nick.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Hey, this has been Founders Live Conversations. I'm Nick Hughes. I'm the CEO and founder of Founders Live, and so excited to have this change, bless you today, and hopefully it helps you in your journey. And we are always recording new conversations, whether it's on our podcast or this video Founders Live Conversations. So keep watching, keep sharing, and out there, everyone, just stay healthy and stay safe.